Hey, good evening. Good to see you tonight. I'm wearing my Faith RX t-shirt this evening. You might remember me already wearing this shirt, but it's not the same one. I have two of them, so I'm wearing my second one of my Faith RX shirts that are exactly the same. Good to see you tonight. Glad you're able to tune in. As you saw from the title, I'm going to be answering the question of is the eventual coronavirus vaccine the mark of the beast? If you can't tell by my smile, the answer I'm going to give you up front is no, it's not. But it does need to be addressed because there are some misguided people out there who are suggesting that it is. And we're going to look at whether or not that is scriptural. And it will be strictly in Revelation 13 this evening, and really we're just actually going to look at most of this chapter tonight and go through this in a appropriate time. Won't take too long, but we do want to cover this thoroughly. The Bible says here in the first three verses, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads that were wounded, and the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered at the beast. Okay, so this beast here, it's the fourth beast of Daniel, and also is really a combination of all those various beasts put together. This is the revived Roman Empire. Remember the Roman Empire? Well, the revived Roman Empire one day is going to come back on the scene, and this will be a mass of humanity. The Gentile world's coming up out of the sea is what that means. There's a lot of study we could do on all of this. When I went through this chapter in our church, I spent weeks on it, so we're trying to cram this all into one little study here. But bottom line is the Roman Empire has not revived, so that has not happened yet. It's very important as we're going through a bunch of things that have not happened yet, because we're going to get to something at the end of the chapter, which is the mark of the beast, and so you can see where I'm going. Look at verse 4. Verse 4 says, they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? He had strong military might. This ties in with Revelation chapter number 6, when we begin to see the first 2 seal judgments. And there's the war, and we know through those seal judgments that a quarter of the world's population is killed there in the relatively beginning parts of the tribulational period. Through the second seal judgment is the red horse, the war, and so he makes war. Famine follows that, plague follows that, and a quarter of the world's population die during that time frame. So in 5 years, our world population will be about 8 billion people. So let's just round it off and call it that it is 2 billion people that will die during that time. Now, I know a lot of people are dying, but let's be honest, it is absolutely nowhere near the numbers that Revelation is talking about in Genesis chapter number 6. Nowhere near at all. And so we see that he's already established at this point. Who can make war with him? In other words, he's already established. He's already proven this revived Roman Empire, as we're going to see under the Antichrist leadership, has proven its military might. Okay, so it is not something that they haven't done yet. It's something that's already happened, which is what is recorded back in Revelation chapter 6. Bottom line is, 2 billion people haven't died. All right, verse 5. Let's continue on. And there was given unto him a mouth to speak great things, and blasphemies, and powers given unto him to continue 42 months. That's 3.5 years. This is a reference to the last 3.5 years of the tribulation period. And so this is the latter part of the 7-year tribulation. And he has, in verse 6, he blasphemes God. In verse 7, begins to kill the saints, all right, the Christians. He begins to murder them in great numbers. And again, this man has not been revealed. The Antichrist and the revived Roman Empire have not come to power. None of these things have happened. Drop down to verse 11. And I beheld another beast come up out of the earth, And he had two horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and all them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed, and who doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. We can't cover all of it, but bottom line is this is the false prophet in all of his ministry that he'll have of promoting the Antichrist in his one world government, the revived Roman Empire. What you got to understand is in the tribulation period, Satan has his what we would call a false trinity. Okay, it's him as God. You have the false prophet as the Holy Spirit, and you have the Antichrist as the Antichrist, all right, the replacement of Christ. And so the false trinity, if you will. And now here in verses 11 through 15, what we see here is that this false prophet, all right, is going to come on the scene, but no one exists like him right now. And he'll only exist in the latter half of the tribulation. Then we come to the mark, okay, verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. All right, now, when we begin to follow this, the false prophet is the one, in its context, who pushes the mark. It's the false prophet that gets the people to take the mark. The mark of the beast, what does it do? It enables them to buy or sell. We could make assumptions that maybe it's ID and GPS tracker and medical stuff. Very well all possible, but the Bible tells us that it enables you to buy and sell. The mark of the beast does not protect us from a virus. Let's review. When will the mark of the beast come? According to Revelation chapter 13, it will be after the Roman Empire has revived, and we won't have, and thus the Antichrist will be revealed, and we won't have to guess or wonder who he is. The world will know who he is because he will have negotiated a peace treaty with Israel that is between Israel and all nations. Now, Israel has their enemies, but they have a lot of allies. They're not in a position right now where they need a peace treaty with all nations. But there will come a time that will happen, and this man will negotiate a 7-year peace deal with Israel and all nations, and that will identify him as the Antichrist, and it will mark the beginning of the 7-year tribulation period, which will be marked by a time in the beginning of peace, which will quickly turn to war, in which a quarter of the world population will die, which has not happened. And the quarter of the world population will be from war, famine, disease, and animals going wild. It'll probably be because of global warming. The animals will go crazy, all right? But anyhow, it's another message, another study. The mark will come after the Antichrist starts killing Christians. The mark will come after the false prophet is revealed, and you will know who he is as well. You won't have to guess. There are so many people guessing, I think the Antichrist is this person. I think it's this person. I think it's this person. When it's him, you won't have to guess. There won't be a debate. Everybody will know. The mark will be a means of purchasing and selling. Thus, it cannot be the eventual vaccine for the coronavirus. None of these things have happened, and even if the event started tomorrow, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. What do I mean? Well, everything we're hearing is that we're a year to a year and a half, let's call it 2 years, away from vaccine. Okay? Fine. Well, if the tribulation started tomorrow, the events that lead into the mark of the beast can't happen for 3.5 years. because this stuff that I just read to you doesn't occur till the midway point of the tribulation. So we'll have a vaccine in place and in operation before the Bible calls for it. So why do good people get so messed up on this stuff? I'll tell you why. Bad theology. Bad theology is what gets people all messed up on this stuff. People are worried about taking the mark of the beast. Now, that is not a bad thing. I'm not going to diminish someone or criticize someone for not wanting to take the mark of the beast. I think their heart's in the right place. The problem is their theology is poor. When you understand what the Bible teaches, all right, when you understand that church saints, us, we will not be here during this time. We'll be raptured out. This is why your view on the tribulation is so vitally important. Because when you start going down the mid-trib, and particularly the post-trib view, you are really going to take a different view on life as we know it. And you're going to start looking for the Antichrist because you have to discern who he is. And you start looking for the mark of the beast because you're going to be here for it. And friends, no, we're not. We're not going to be here for this. And I really believe, look, if I really believed that you had to survive the tribulation, I would be neglecting my job as a pastor if I did not tell you to prepare yourself, to go find a cabin in a wood somewhere and stockpile non-perishable foods and fallout shelters and all bottled water and all the apocalypse kits you can get. I would be negligent if I were not to warn my people to do that. And let me add this. If I had one of those, if I had that post-tribulational view, there's absolutely no way that I could pastor a long term in Massachusetts. Why? Because if the world's going bad, we're epicenter of one of the places it's going to start going bad. And sooner or later, I would have to pack up and leave for fear of life for my family or whatever. And so, look, bad theology is what gets people all mixed up, and it doesn't mean they're bad people, by the way. It's just bad theology. And you know what all this does? All this stuff of the virus, the vaccines, is going to be the mark of the beast. You know what that does? It detracts from the cause of Christ. Because the minute anybody starts espousing that sort of stuff, do you know what the average person looks at that person as? A whack job, a total lunatic. All right? When you start putting that stuff out online, when you start saying that stuff, people think that dude's crazy. Now, you might not be, but you look that way. Here's the sad part. You have the message of salvation, the gospel. And it's the right message. But when you start putting crazy stuff out there, people hear it that don't know the Lord, and I think that guy's insane. That guy's a nutcase. And they discredit everything you have to say. So when you start talking about the truth of the gospel, they're not going to listen to you. Why? Because you spouted off of some lunacy, some crazy stuff because you don't have good theology, because you don't understand the Bible. And you're hurting yourself. You know, the problem is, and I want to be careful what I say here, because I don't want to offend people. That's not my desire. I think people are genuine in the sense that they don't ever want to do anything that would dishonor God. All right? They don't want to dishonor God. And I respect that. But Christian, you don't have to worry about taking the mark of the beast. You're not going to be here. Now, what about the tribulation saints? Different story. They will be here. But understand this. You're not going to take it by accident. You're not going to be like, oops, I didn't know I took the mark of the beast. No, you'll know what it is. You'll know. And the only people who are going to take it are the ones who aren't believers. You can say whatever you want, but your actions prove. I don't believe in a works-based salvation, and I certainly don't believe you can lose your salvation, but I do believe that people say things. And people do things to appease people, to look good, whatever. For the life of me, I've never understood wanting to look like a big deal in your small spiritual circle. I don't understand that. I just want to honor God. I'm not trying to make enemies. I'm not trying to make friends per se. I mean, I'm not really too concerned what people. I'm concerned what God thinks of me. And if something I say is a help to somebody, man, praise God. I rejoice in that. And if people don't care for me, I'm not upset about that either. They're entitled to their opinion. But when you're not going to take this by accident. It's not going to be like, oh, I didn't know. No, you're going to know what you're doing. And many Christians will choose death over the mark of the beast. And many people who aren't truly believers will take the mark of the beast over death. It's as simple as that for the tribulation saints. For us church saints, we're not going to be here. Now, I know there's this big movement of post-tribulation. Man, I'm getting sick of it because it's such bad theology. And it really hinders the cause of Christ. I'm not saying people aren't saved; they are. But seriously, I mean, if you really believe that, then you got to start to setting money aside for the day that you're going to have to survive. And that's going to detract from missions. It's going to detract from your church. It's going to detract from the main purpose that we're here. See, who do you think's behind that? Takes away from missions, takes away from evangelism, and takes away from the church in general. It gets people to go out into the boonies where nobody is. Who do you think's behind that one? Oh, could it be Satan? Yeah, because it is. I understand that there's an outlier of people that hold to a different tribulational view that are evangelistic. I do understand that. I'm not naive to that. There are some. But do you understand that teaching, while there may be an outlier person that is evangelistic and is not worried about these things, for the average person, that's not how they're going to think. They're going to think, I got to protect my family. And the last place I want to be is Massachusetts. And they're going to already start planning, where am I going to go? That's why if you have a church like that, you're going to struggle to keep people. Why? Because the minute you start teaching it, the wheels are turning, people aren't dumb, I got to get out of here for my family. Why? Because they're a good father. And a good pastor would agree with them if he really held to that doctrine. But back to the main point here. Whether the vaccines, there's a lot of discussion on vaccines, and that's another issue. But when that vaccine becomes available, and I think that is going to be a very hotly debated topic in the coming year or two, is that mandated? Right now, you can refuse any vaccine for religious exemption. But is that going to be allowed? I don't know. And I'm telling you, it is going to be a fight, and I'm not sure what will happen with it. I'm not even sure how I feel about it. I'm just telling you it's coming. And but bottom line is, if you do get it, you're not taking the mark of the beast, okay? So don't let anybody misguide you on those sort of things. And I saw some of that stuff online, and not bad people. I got no ill will towards them, but they're just misguided. So it doesn't line up scripturally, as we've just gone almost verse by verse through here. Revelation chapter 13 has laid it out. The mark of the beast will not be coming to the latter half of the tribulation. There's a lot of things that have to happen in Revelation and for that mark to come, none of which fit in with what we're dealing with now. So listen, be safe out there, all right? I don't know where you're at, but us here in Massachusetts, there's a lot of sick people. Be praying. One of our members, his mom, is in a nursing home that has a lot of people with COVID-19 in it, and we're praying for her. She's in her 90s. All right, she doesn't have it right now, but we're praying for her. And we've got a lot of nurses and different people in working in different places. So listen, be praying for them. Listen, I hope the message has been a blessing to you, and you guys be safe out there. Lord bless you. Bye now.